The public can access this meeting via WebEx technology. The meeting of the Fox Hill School Building Committee will be held in person in the school committee room. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. Tonight's meeting number is 2338-164-1616. The password is Burlington with a capital B. Andrea, are you sharing or? Okay. I'm just going to check on who's joined on the phone. All right, here we go. I believe the first item is the approval of the January 9th meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the meeting minutes? I don't see hands, Bob. All right. Mrs. Bond?
Aye.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Dr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Cuna?
Yes.
Mr. Sagarino?
Yes.
Mr. Genizio?
Abstain?
Mr. Rosenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Villano?
Yes.
Mrs. Priest?
Abstain.
Mrs. Bunker?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
And I am a yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10-02. Our second item is previous public comment response.
Sure. If you remember from our, I believe, November meeting or December meeting, we had a comment that we noted as last time we were still deliberating to have a formal comment prepared. Just in response to that, it was a comment regarding at the November 20th meeting regarding fields and planning, and in general, no decisions have been made or no final decisions have been made on the fields other than that we have a series of meetings that still need to happen over the course of several weeks, and starting as soon as this month to meet with Parks and Recreation, School Department to determine adequate field use, determine needs both on the school side and the town side. So those meetings will continue to happen.
Thank you. Okay. We don't have anyone in the room. Do we have any public comment online? Nope. Okay. Summary of recent meetings.
Sure. I think we'll probably have a team effort here, but we've been very busy and we really appreciate everyone's time over the past month. We had a very successful and great meeting with MSBA. It's called the Facilities Assessment Subcommittee meeting, where we presented the status of the project, where we left off at the end of preferred schematic report or feasibility study. We presented to several board members of the MSBA, and including the DESE representative, as well as some other members, as well as some staff at MSBA. Basically gave everyone a highlights of where we are and the overall budget and pretty much the educational program. Compliments again, as we keep saying, to the town of Burlington and Burlington Public Schools. They were extremely impressed with your educational program, extremely impressed with the staff that you provide for the students to create learning opportunities for all students. It was very well received. Thank you, Dr. Conti. And they overall reviewed the final solution, preferred solution, and they too were very pleased with the very simple layout, the organization and integration of special education spaces, including the lab program. They recognize that's an important component of the overall program, as well as the efficiencies and use of the site. So great support. We did just receive 2 days ago, Friday, that was like 2 days ago. And we received their review comments back as well for the preferred schematic report. We're very pleased that they really, it was well documented, a complete report, very few comments that we have to respond back to. And they had no further comments regarding the educational program. They did ask for additional clarification, which we already gave them, but we'll give it to them again on the science, tech, engineering. They accepted all of the other program components. They accepted the gym, recognizing that the additional 1,000 square feet would be paid for by the town, but they had no objections. So thank you, everyone. That was a great review. Nothing else to add? Okay. It was great. It was great. We had our planning board meeting on January 18th. I was not present, so.
Yep. So Neil and I attended with Bob, which was really helpful. We presented an overview of the project, basically filled them in as to where we were in the process. Schematic design indicated that we would continue to meet with them to update them. They also indicated, the board did indicate that they wanted to be included in the upcoming meetings, and we'll go through some of the upcoming meetings towards the end of this meeting. But they do want some input and some involvement, which I think would help as we know that we'll need to go through site plan approval through the planning board. So having input will just help us further the project.
Sustainability. Oh, thanks. And then we just held a sustainability meeting that too, everything's a blur last few days, last week. Great meeting, and I believe the meeting should be posted, but just a real quick highlight that we are on track to receive a LEED gold status. We're squarely within the gold certification. You have to be from 60 to 80. We're at right now probably somewhere between 64 and 68 points. So as the design furthers along, we'll be able to validate some of the points that are still in the maybe column, and hopefully we can get a few more. But we're really on track thanks to the high performance and the sustainable goals such as ground source heat pumps and the solar panels. So
To note that the meeting was posted. The presentation, the recording, and the agenda was all provided as backup to this meeting as well. So it's on the shared drive for you to access. And I don't know, Martha, don't mean to put you on the spot, but as a participant of that meeting, if you had anything to offer.
Well, I think, what I'm impressed with is the team that you've gathered. They really do know their stuff. And so when I come with questions, they know the answers to them about how do you consider what should be considered, and how what does it mean embodied carbon, and which is it going to cost more, but is that the only consideration? And often it isn't going to cost more. Where things are sourced, is another issue. So all those things people know about and are working on. And I was very, always, each of those meetings, we've had more and more information, and it's been really helpful. And just, I have to go back to that, we have found that the geothermal heat pumps, if we find out success at the test well, is going to be less expensive project. So, so I'm just very encouraged by the work we're doing, and hope that people will, ask any of the questions that they need to, too. Thank you.
I actually have a question in regard to the gold. I haven't reviewed the backup, so apologies if it's in there. Did the sustainability working group decide we would shoot for gold, or and then we're aiming for gold, or is gold kind of where in the middle? I forget. I think there's a platinum. I'm just trying to understand, and
Yep.
I know there's silver. So
Sure. There's actually certified, but MSBA's new regulations require that any building be a silver rating. Given the opportunities with ground source heat pumps and all-electric building, as well as some of the other, hopefully we can take advantage of the renewable energy on site without really having to think much about it. We're squarely in gold. So it's wonderful. If you listen to the recording, unfortunately, we will not be able to achieve platinum. That's really our goal is like gold, right? That's a given these days. But a lot of the points surround the location of the site, and when you don't have access to transit, it's not a brownfield. There's a whole lot of other requisites that there's just no way for us to ever achieve those points. But yeah, no, we're really excited. We're squarely in gold.
awesome. Thank you.
That's great. And that was it.
That's it. Okay.
Actually, I think the one other meeting, was it not on there? We also have had lots of meetings. Oh, David's online. Thank you, David, to you and your team. Did I miss it? Sorry, room data sheets. Even in front of me, I still missed it. Sorry. We have spent a solid 4 days working and meeting with, I think, almost every single staff person within the Fox Hill School. And it's been wonderful. We've had representatives for every grade and then all of the specials and support staff. So we met, we reviewed the layout of the building, which we'll get to in a minute, but also where their spaces are, what those look like, how we can design them internally, how they envision their special needs or layouts of the spaces. So that really helps us and make sure that we can identify where the infrastructure goes for all of the spaces, where your plugs, where your outlets, where your data connections. We met also with Dennis and his team. Thank you, Dennis. That was a great meeting. We talked about the technology that's going to go in the building, both from infrastructure as well as from equipment, so to speak. So we'll be updating these room data sheets, and we'll be sharing them. We'll be able to publish them once we update them. But those were really, really great meetings, so thank you. Now we're going into the design update.
Okay, so we have now been in schematic design for the past month, and really excited because as part of this process, the whole room data sheets with the staff input really help us to be able to now really craft a building. We've been looking at how the building works. We also have been reviewing the layout, and for those who looked ahead, you'll see that we looked at reorganizing or reorienting the building, not reorganizing the spaces. All the spaces within the building are still the adjacencies are still the same as where we left off at the end of preferred schematic. But in reviewing the layout of the site and how the building functions with the school on a day-to-day basis, with school department and various staff, it really made sense to flip the orientation of the building. So you'll see this first site plan is where we left off at preferred schematic. So this is the end of feasibility study. So since then, we've been looking at what would it mean for the site? What would it mean for the building if we were to flip the building? So at PSR, end of PSR, the academic wing was on the right-hand side of the site, and the community wing was on the left, with a gym kind of tucked in the back towards the bus drop-off. So in reviewing how the gym might be used, really looking at how the connections are made to the playground from cafeteria, as well as from the school to the fields and the gym to the fields, it really made sense to flip the building. So now the building is oriented in such a way that the academic wing is on the left-hand side, closest to the bus drop-off. And the community wing is on the right-hand side with direct access from the gym to the fields, from the cafeteria to the playground. And we were able to also provide a direct access from the parking lot area to the gym for after-hours use. And we'll get into the plan in a minute here. So it really was, we felt, a really good change to the site plan, or at least to the building orientation. But again, nothing has changed with regard at this point for where the bus drop-off is and where the pedestrian and automobile access to the building is. And again, during schematic design, we're going to be looking more closely at the site. We'll be reviewing with Parks and Rec. We'll be reviewing with the traffic groups and looking at, potentially reconfiguring the bus, but all with the goal that we want to separate and provide safe separation between cars and buses. So, so the next slide.
Just a question.
Yes.
Where's like I'm looking at the comparison of the two. Where's receiving?
It's so hard. So let's go to can we go to the flip scheme, which is the next?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So the next slide, I wonder if you can zoom. Is it possible to zoom in a little bit? So in both options, at the end of feasibility study and here during schematic design, we have receiving coming off of the bus loop. So the receiving area and service drive is behind the building, directly off of the bus loop with a mountable curb. So there still will be a curb of some sort, but these vehicles can mount it and get back. And receiving now is in the center, in the back of the building, very close to where the cafeteria and the kitchen are. And again, we'll kind of get into the plan. So what this does is kind of creates a service zone right behind the academic area. You'll see that it's kind of a driveway. And again, we're going to be developing the site further and looking at really carving out some spaces, looking at potential areas for outdoor learning, and making those connections from inside the building to outside to the outdoor classrooms to the playground areas.
Just to add, so you can see the green. I think they're the green arrows going to the back. But more importantly, when we're calling it a service drive, right? Those are the first floor classrooms, which we're assuming, some people are going to say, oh no, we don't want buses or deliveries being driven behind there. And we'll be able to do it in such a way that we're very sensitive to the classrooms. We can do screening, we can do buffers. And then, it's so hard to tell, and you can't see my mouse, but there is, yes, at the end of that line, the goal is, and we will do this, is that we'll put a separation wall, right? So that when students exit the cafeteria, there's a pink area that has like outdoor learning area, but there'll be a nice wall that will prevent students from going to the receiving area and for the receiving to cross over. So it will still keep the receiving and deliveries, et cetera, separated from the students. And the other aspect that we talked about is How does this impact? Well, two things. The easier one to go into is the expansion, if you ever need to add to it. This actually allows you to do it in an easier way. We're away from the wetlands. You can still extend and add some classrooms onto, it's 3 classrooms per floor, right? So you can get an additional 6 classrooms if you ever need to do that. The arrow that comes off of the bus drop-off loop, students will still be able to enter the building as they drop off. Well, this will be not a side entry. It will be a nice entry, a warm, welcoming environment for the students. And the way we're learning how the school works, the kids don't go and gather in the cafeteria or playground before school. They go directly to their classrooms. So that's a great advantage. Students coming off the buses will go directly to their classrooms. And then we have the large red arrow in the middle, and that's the main entry. So we also think this helped a lot because now the entry is squarely in the middle of the building. And so we're actually refining. We're not showing you tonight because it is an iteration of plans, but we've even have developed it even further since we've submitted this, how to make, that to be more of a prominent entry. And then you'll see the third little arrow all the way over to the right, and this has further been refined so that we can actually create a vestibule or an entry into the gym area. They'll still have access up to, through to the cafeteria where the bathrooms are and everything, but this way people can park in that part of the parking lot and go directly into the gym. So we find this is a really it's a better plan, better layout. It functions better for the school and for the site. And if you can see, we actually kind of inverted the building, so now we're able to push it up further and adjust the parking accordingly and be able to provide more site for open space.
The dots, I'm assuming, are the
Yes, thank you.
geothermal
Yes,
flip
yep.
as well?
Yep, those are the geothermal well field, and we've been talking with our well designers, for lack of a better term, and where we want to locate them, because we have to be mindful that the existing school needs to remain in operation while we're drilling them, that's still convenient to the mechanical spaces. The mechanical spaces are directly behind the middle red arrow, so they're still in good proximity. And this also allows, maintains the 360-degree access around the building for emergency vehicles. And then we can show you some exciting improvements on the inside.
Do you want to go to the next slide? So apologies for the tiny plans, but this kind of gives you a snapshot of the comparison of the two plans. On the left-hand side is where we left off at the end of feasibility. On the right-hand side is where we currently are. So you'll see the purple spaces are the academic, the classrooms. And then the big red box is the gym. So you'll see that we're able to flip. So we keep calling it flipped. But what we're calling this now is this is our schematic design plan, and we can walk through it with you. So again, the relationships inside have not changed. The classrooms are still clustered around project areas, 2 classrooms per project area, 2 project areas per grade. The cafeteria is now much more connected to the music rooms, to the music room, and then we have a direct connection up to the second floor to the media center through a set of stairs. But again, you can kind of, if you squint, you can see that it's kind of a mirror of each other. And as Donna said, we were able to also reorganize the first floor administration area so that it's on the other side of the arrow, and now the entrance is much more centrally located, which is really great because as the kids are dropped off by parents and by the van, they can enter in a more centrally located area and head to the classrooms. Next. Okay, so here is the first floor plan. And if you could, I'm sorry, zoom in.
It's actually
Yeah.
the man behind
Is
the
that
curtain.
Oh, you're the guy. I am so sorry. I keep looking at Andrea. The guy behind the. I am so sorry. Okay. So again, as we kind of look at what's going on, you enter in the center. On a day-to-day basis, children would be dropped off by cars and vans, and they can enter in the center. Uh, the administration wing is the green, they're all the green spaces, so that's where you would come in, you would check in. If you're a visitor, you would check in a secure vestibule, and then you would be buzzed into the building. But in the morning when students arrive, we would assume that they would walk in, say hello to reception, and head to their classrooms. So what we've also done is created a view corridor when you walk in so that you can actually see through to the wetland area. So we really want to develop that and bring some of that outside in. That's also a direct way out to the outdoor classroom area that we'll be developing as part of schematic design. To the right-hand side of that view corridor is the community area. So the orange boxes are that's the kitchen on the left and the cafeteria on the right, cafetorium, and the darker blue is the platform stage. What we've been able to do is provide a direct access from the platform, which is 18 inches above the cafeteria floor, so it kind of serves like a stage. And the music room is now connected at the same elevation. So from the lobby or from the corridor and the gym lobby, there's a ramp and a set of stairs that leads you up to this kind of a music suite is how we're developing it. And in reviewing the room data sheets with staff, what we've found is that we really needed 2 music spaces. So we've been able to consolidate all of the music program and subdivide the music room into 2 spaces using a partition that is much more acoustically sound than the accordion partitions that Fox Hill currently has. This provides a great deal of flexibility if a larger space is needed, but on a day-to-day basis, the two classrooms of music can be taught at the same time. We're also looking at providing flexibility on the stage and providing another partition so that the stage could also be used for instrumental music and practice. So looking ahead just for flexibility and for future potential needs. So what also, what's been created also through that third exit, that third little triangle, yeah, there you go, is the community access to the gym. And through there, we're able to create a slightly larger lobby area so that when there are basketball tournaments and community events, there's actually a little bit more generous space than a corridor for folks to gather and wait. Let's see, did I miss anything else? And then OTPT and the motor room is also down close to the gym, along with the DSC storage space for some of the equipment. So that's kind of what constitutes the first floor community wing. Along with that are 2 sets of stairs, one centrally located right by administration. That takes you directly upstairs to the media center, actually, which is then right across the corridor. And the other stair is close to the gym, which again provides really great connections from the first to the second floor. So if we go to the second, I'm sorry, I keep looking at Andrea.
She's clicking, he's zooming.
What? Okay. Oh, you're doing the slides. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so you'll see some boxes on the right-hand side with X's. Those indicate that the gym and the cafeteria are actually, the gym is 2 stories, right, to give us the height needed for volleyball and other sports. The smaller boxes on the left are the cafeteria and the platform, the stage. So we want to be able to provide some volume in those spaces. Really just kind of adds to the ability to create taller windows to bring in some more daylight and connections to the wetland. The nice yellow box you'll see that's the media center or library. And directly across from that is a stair from the administrative lobby. So what we want to do is be able to create a beautiful media center library space that sits over the entrance. So as folks arrive to the school, they're really welcomed by this beautiful open glass and I don't know, a colorful space that is really exciting. And, you know, in other schools, this has kind of been the heart of the school, and it's been moved, you know, sometimes it's on the first floor, but it's really effective on the second floor too, because it really provides kind of a nice snapshot into the school from the parking area and entrance. So next to the media library is the STE room, science, technology, engineering, and then next to that is the art room in the light blue. So by putting these spaces together, we're able to really create a gallery and kind of a STEAM suite upstairs, and we have an opportunity to provide display areas. There's a large enough space that if there are fun activities for the science, technology, engineering, they can use the corridor, and they can actually, we've been looking at potentially building an outdoor classroom that is on the roof of that low portion next to the gym. So again, opportunities to take advantage of areas where we don't need to build program, but we can build outside space. And then inside, next to the stair, we can also create kind of a two-story space. And we're studying different options for this suite area, but really getting excited. So at our next meetings, we'll share more.
I have a question before going to the next slide. If you could go back one slide, you mentioned the accessibility of the stage next to in the cafetorium, and I can see where that ramp is. Behind this, on the wall near the stage, there's a ramp that anyone can get access to that. But you're saying also that the music room is up at that level, and if so, how does one get to the music room? Only through that ramp behind the stage, or?
No, there is actually, So, I don't know who's.
Martha, I think you almost need to look at the screen.
Look at the big
Okay.
screen. Yep. So that is actually a ramp.
Oh, okay.
That is part of the corridor, and there we could also provide a small set of stairs as well.
So there's a ramp directly to the music
Yep.
room, and also behind the stage, and either way
Exactly.
you can get to the stage.
Right.
And otherwise, so the music room and the stage are raised from the rest of the level, but everything else on that level is accessible, flat,
Yes.
whatever the words are.
Same elevation. Yeah, the
Good.
same elevation throughout.
And also, just to confirm, everything's accessible, right? So it's just a ramp. So and we're not talking a lot. We're talking 18 inches.
Yeah.
So and then the white part on the upper part of the stage, you access the stage from the cafeteria. So you can access the stage from the
Right.
cafeteria. You're in the cafeteria. You want to go up and receive your 5th grade diploma. You can go up. You can access the stage that way, or you could actually use the ramp in the music suite if you want to use even the music room as a green room, as an extension of the stage. So it just gives you more flexibility. Yeah, it's really shaping up. It's great.
And if I could also ask what the dotted lines, it appears to be, well, what are the dotted boxes?
So at this point, they're a bit of a placeholder. What we do know is that we want to provide a canopy of some sort that will help give the kids some protection as they disembark from a van or from their parents' car. So that is just, at this point, an overhang, kind of a canopy that is attached to the building, but we're studying different ways of providing that protection.
That sounds good. And then there's 2 boxes inside the building. Are those just placeholders, or there's a
That-
little?
I think that's where it says open to below or whatever.
Oh,
So in
open
this case, this
got
is
it.
open above. So the dash line
Yep.
is probably open to
open
above.
Okay,
And on the second floor, you'll see an X with an opening,
great.
open to
Thank
below.
you.
My question is, this entire right-hand side is like that locked off community area. Does that include the library? Like, can you go upstairs?
So we anticipate, I think that's for further discussion.
Okay.
It can be, but, or it can be open. So we do have a stair next to the gym that we're actually designing right now to be enclosed with kind of a glass-like enclosure. But if you want the ability to open up the library, we can close off again. Similar to this, there is another stair at the end. So as long as we block it off on the academic side of that stair, we're good with egress. Yeah.
One small comment about the adjacency of the receiving area in the kitchen. Seems like there's going to be a certain amount of traffic across that hallway that wouldn't be that preferable if there was an alternative. So I don't know where the storage is for the kitchen, but might be worth taking another look, see whether that traffic is warranted and tolerable.
Yes, thank you. We did study that, and the challenge is to separate the receiving and loading area from kids and still provide the access to the back for the kids. So we have done this in many projects where we've actually had receiving across the corridor from the kitchen. The way that deliveries are scheduled can be, they can work around the schedule of the school.
If I could add, when we went to the Douglas Gates, there was a hallway between receiving and the cafeteria also. So I saw they were just using it that way. So.
Yeah, and this is, I think, the connection directly from receiving directly into the kitchen, right? It's across a corridor, but it's diagonally across. They're not bringing it all the way down the corridor. And this is, and kind of, in our opinion, a secondary corridor, because that corridor really is there to provide a lot of natural light and connection to the outdoors. It absolutely could be used for outdoor learning, and students may go out there, but it's probably not going to be used very frequently. Thank you.
Melissa. Yeah, if I could just comment as well, too. So I'm sure you're aware, but obviously the kitchen is not the only receiving department in the building as well, too. So, a lot of supplies obviously come in. So having it come through the kitchen is a concern of ours as well. So just something that we were discussing in one of our meetings.
I have two questions. One, I see the principal space marked off, but currently Fox Hill has an assistant principal, and I'm not quite seeing the space for that. And then the other piece was you had mentioned the awning. Will there be an awning on the end of the building for the bus students as well?
Yep, thank you. There is, it just says office or OFF, I think, that's currently there. And yeah, we definitely want to study that, like this all sort of came together in the last few weeks, but we definitely want to provide shelter for students coming off the bus and entering the building. Yep, thank you.
I think of the school space. I was in there recently, and my son's room is right next to one of those hallway offices that had to be created. So when I was kind of looking around at this, just one of the things that stood out. So I appreciate you answering that.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in some of those little offices that, yeah. I'm sure everyone's pretty excited about the opportunity for a new school over there.
Is general storage, I saw art storage, I think, but we have PTO stuff under a bench in a custodial closet right now. Is there just general, we had to build a shed outside for playground equipment. Is that just not on here? Is it somewhere? Is it the stairwell?
So we do have storage scattered throughout the building. Some of the storage is specific to MSBA requirements, and some are just going to be general that you can allocate. In terms of outdoor?
Yeah, we're exploring where we might be able to put actually not PTO storage, but storage for after-school program. which also is incredibly important. So we're refining and kind of continuing to tweak kind of that whole cafeteria stage music area, see if we can carve out an area for PTO. But to your point, Melissa, we do not have sufficient space within the building to accommodate a lot of the PTO stuff, for sure. We can certainly explore opportunities to put a shed in.
We can
with-
keep the shed that we have. We just installed it, but yeah, I was just
Perfect.
curious. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was
yes,
our
thank
goal.
you.
Yeah.
Yep. So, maybe locating it by the receiving area, whatever, or in an area that is accessible, but sort of out of the way. Our goal, you'll see the dotted line or the lines where it says custodian office or whatever, back there. Yes, in front of the brown or behind the brown will be all of your recycling, trash, your composting, and all of that will go back there. But we should we'll take measurements of it and figure out where we can relocate it on the site. That's great, thank you.
It also just made me think you said after school program. So I know the cafeteria is actually smaller than the one that exists at Fox Hill right now, and that's with the bulk of the after school program. And I know they are constrained on enrollment in the after school program because of the space. But I also know that we'll have fewer students at Fox Hill, so I was just wondering if we've calculated in any way, like, will this fit the after school program? It would, like, that but light bulb just went in my mind. But
That's okay.
okay.
What do you have an idea of the number of students?
I mean, I can get it for you. I just know that they turn students away currently because they don't have enough physical space. And if this space is smaller, even though the enrollment will be smaller, will we have enough space?
Yeah, I think our goal is to design this. It's laid out, I believe, for about 150 students. 150
Okay.
students with the cafeteria tables.
Okay.
So if we need more space, let's talk about it. The other component would be that the gym obviously is right
Yep.
there and
Yep.
available, and then upstairs would
library,
be the
yeah.
library. Yeah,
Yep.
but if they need to do head counts, if everyone has to go and have their snacks, as soon as they arrive, just let us know. Right now, we're designing this so it's about 150 students per seating.
Okay.
So that really allows up to 450 students.
For lunch, but
For
only
lunch.
150 for after school.
150
Okay.
for.
I'll find out.
Yeah, that would be great.
And if I could also, now that I can zoom in on it and see the small print, I found the elevator, which is right there in the middle, which seems
Sorry,
like a
thank
perfect
you.
place. And I just wanted to check, is there one elevator? Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay,
And it typically, right, you need a access card.
right.
Not everyone can just
Right.
access the elevator. Yeah, so we're always finding that actually for healthy living, that when you walk in, you see the stairs and get excited about taking the stairs rather than the elevator.
Right.
But in this instance, we actually are both right in front of you. So
Okay, thank you.
Now that Martha pointed that out, when we went and saw the school in Woburn, they had to leave more space open than they wanted to for elevator access. So if we're gonna be utilizing the library with the community or the media space, making sure that those doors that lock are beyond the elevator so the community members can get up.
yeah, thank you.
Kristen is letting me know that there's roughly 100 students in the after school program, so we're good.
So you can add 50%. And we're also studying maybe putting an A phone in the cafeteria so that when parents arrive, right, they can see them and let them in, and they can come directly to the cafeteria, whether it's at the gym entrance or the main entrance, so that staff don't have to go out and open the door and let in parents and everything. So we're well aware how important the after-school programs are to these families and the community.
The code doesn't work. code system doesn't work in this scenario? Oh.
We have not talked about
Oh,
a
okay.
code system, so we can talk about that. Sure.
Do we want to talk about a code system? Because I think district-wide, we'd like to move away from that and then just provide either access cards, which we do in most situations now if the doors allow it. Ultimately, I think, which we've installed in a few circumstances, is an A phone similar to what we have at most main entrances. And where they're lacking is in, the after-school spaces such as the cafeterias. So again, an A phone, I think, is probably a better solution, or access cards, as opposed to a 4 or 5 digit, 6-digit code.
That's transferable to anyone, and once they leave there, yeah. We do it all the time, so, just like the main office will have an A phone, we call them A phones, right? They get to visually see who's ringing the doorbell, they talk to them, and they'll say, okay, come on in, and then they will unlock the door for them remotely, and then they can come in and get their students. That's just a far safer environment for everyone, but you just don't have that right now.
Do we
so.
have that for any after-school programs?
We have that at one school right now,
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one?
Memorial.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Which we talked about. So that kind of wraps up our design update. Again, we would love support tonight so that we can continue with our schematic design based upon the revised layouts that we're sharing with you. We also had incredibly support from all of the staff that we've met with for 4 days straight. They think it's great. Plus, we also met with some other folks within BPS themselves. So everyone's really excited about the improvements, the access for the play areas, as well as the refinements inside of the building.
Awesome. I heard great things from the staff as well.
Yeah, we had fun. They really, we had a lot of fun.
Anyone want to make some sort of motion? What are you looking for in terms of motion?
I think it's just it's a deviation from the plans that had been developed so far. So it's, I think, just to have a discussion about, what's good, what you might be concerned with, just to get it out in the open and have a discussion around it. Ultimately, I think we would like a vote to move forward with the amended design, flipped, rotated, however you want to word it, as presented tonight, just so that
So moved.
I'll second it.
as presented.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Brooks?
Quick, so we brought up a lot of points about moving doors, accessibility, and a few other things. So I don't know if we want to do as presented, maybe with incorporating changes to amend the motion.
Yeah, I mean,
My-
but I think it's just the overall flipped layout. We're not doing any sort of final
Just
layout
want to make
here.
sure we don't lock
Yeah.
ourselves in saying
Yeah.
we can't do the interior changes too.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're continuing to refine those.
Cafeteria
Yes,
on the
thank
right.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. Brooks, yeah.
Any hands? No. Okay. Ready. Mrs. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Dr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Cuna?
Yes.
Mr. Sagarino?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Villano?
Yes.
Mrs. Priest?
Yes.
Mrs. Bunker?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
I also vote yes. I believe that's 13.
1300. Yeah, thank you. Do you have other topics, Dorn Whittier? No? I have none. I guess we have another public comment. This isn't matching my agenda, but we'll go with it. All right, no more. Next, yes. Yes?
Is Paul on the call?
Yes.
Paul, has there been any more discussion about possible dates for debt exclusion?
Eric, I spoke to Steve Brown and Amy to come to one of these meetings to talk it over with the committee.
Okay, awesome. I just didn't want to lose track of everything, Paul. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes.
Last meeting I tried signing in remotely and what was posted on the town's website did not match what was happening. So is there a way to have it double checked in the future, because I missed the majority of the meeting because of that?
Yes. Yep. All right. Is there a next meeting slide? Okay.
She's looking, sure.
All right, yeah, so, we apologize, I can't see the screen. So as Donna mentioned, we have had many meetings to date, but we are going to have many more coming up. We've already gone through some of the more recent meetings, which are on the left-hand side, but upcoming, we just wanted to remind folks that we are scheduling the geothermal test well to be done, at least installed, during the February vacation week. We're also going to be scheduling geotech borings, which really happens inside the footprint of our proposed building, because we have to understand the soils and the bearing capacity a little bit better. So that's going to happen also during the week of February vacation.
Vivian, can I just understand what the outcome of those? So
Yeah.
you mentioned we're trying to understand what soil is there, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So we have some preliminary borings that were done,
Yeah.
I think, right as we were starting this project. And at that point, we didn't really know exactly where the building was going, right? So now that we have a footprint, we have a pretty good sense of the location. What they're going to do is they're going to come in with drill rigs. They're going to take several samples, typically like on the corners of the building. Then our geotech engineers will go back and evaluate the soils based on what it looks like, whether it could stay, whether we need to remove portions of it, because sometimes soil is junky. Sometimes it won't support, bearing footings and foundations on. And if that's the case, then what this does is it informs us cost-wise what we need to carry for soil removal and what to carry for new stuff, structural fill, essentially. We will have a geotech report.
Is that the same as the test well?
No.
Okay,
So
sorry,
the
I guess
test
I-
well is geothermal. So if you recall our site plan, I know they sound all the same, but if you recall the site plan, we had a bunch of those little dots on the side. So that the geothermal well field are the sets of loops that basically help us cool and heat the building. So that ties to our HVAC, heating and cooling system, whereas the geotech ties back to the structural aspects of the building.
So this test well is going to tell us we can have this system, or we
The
can't,
test
or
well
it's
will
going to be expensive.
the test well
Okay.
will help us determine the conductivity of what's 500 feet from grade to 500 feet below. And that will then later inform us as to how many wells we need to drill. So that is totally independent from the geotechnical borings.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, and I just want to add, we, based on the soil analysis that we had, and they can go and look on the GIS or the websites, and they don't see there's going to be a problem with we also call them ground source heat pumps, right? So geothermal and ground source heat pumps. We don't anticipate it being a problem at all. The question is, how deep do they need to go? And then, based on the results of this, how many we need. Right now, we're carrying 80. It's a good number. right? You know, maybe we need 75 or 82, but this will tell us so we can then design the well field as well as anticipate the cost for them. But we know we can do it. The question is, you know, the exact amount. And then the geotech borings, I just wanted to make sure you understood Vivian's talking technical speak, that basically the soil characteristics will help us understand how well it supports the structure and the foundations, and then and what we need to do for those. And high groundwater, sometimes it's not even that, it's just it's high groundwater, we need to supplement and do different types of structures. That's not the case here, but hopefully you have good soil and we'll have little removal, but that's not always the case, so.
And just to be clear, the preliminary borings did give us information that we used as part of our preliminary pricing. So we do know that there's going to be some soil removal. So this just confirms our whole building footprint, what we need to do. All right.
I was wondering, before you finish the next steps, if we could just, under the meetings you've already held, could you explain what a DCM meeting is?
So sorry.
Department, what does it stand for?
Development coordination meeting?
Coordination meeting, yeah. So it's essentially the town of Burlington's agencies, such as, so the planning director was there. There's somebody, conservation, traffic. So they hold these meetings, I believe, twice a month, and we'll meet again with them when we're about 50% schematic design. What we want to do is just keep them all informed as to the development of the design. They will then, the intent is that we exchange information. And so they will tell us, oh, you need to consider X, Y, Z, or that's not something we would want you to do. So they will help guide us preliminarily for some of the design decisions that we'll be making. But again, because we have to go, we will need to permit this project. So we want to make sure everyone knows what we're doing. And so, it's a chance for them to let us know how to do things the way Burlington would like us to do things.
But I think also what's really nice, and again, compliments to Burlington, is that all of the departments are together. Yeah. And so they can all hear all of the others' needs, requirements, whatever. So if someone says, oh, that's sustainability, if that's important. Oh, let's talk about whatever, septic system. Oh, no, Board of Health is there. Nope, you can't do that. So they all get to hear from each other as well, and it's really a nice collaborative way of approaching this through all of the departments within the town.
And the other meeting, wasn't sure what it meant, although I have a guess, is the room data sheet reviews.
Yeah, those were the meetings that we had with all of the staff. So
all the teachers and things.
It was
Good.
all the teachers, every space in the building. And again, that's an MSBA term, so we apologize. We have to do these room data sheets, and you'll see it's the technical information about them, but more importantly, their layout and what their spaces will look like, including furniture, which will help us establish the furniture budget.
Thank you.
Yep, sorry. Technical speak.
Hard not to do technical speak sometimes. So upcoming meetings, traffic, transportation, we are, again, in the process of developing the site a little further. We are going to be looking at different options for the bus loop, as well as evaluate the traffic circles. So as part of that, we're working with our traffic engineer, our landscape architect, and then we do want to meet early on with folks from transportation and engineering to understand their take on what we're proposing, because we don't want to go down a path too far. So that's coming up. DPW will want to review based on utilities and capacities and all that. Board of Health, a little bit early now, but in terms of what we're doing preliminarily for testing, we'll want to check in with them. Parks and Rec, we've talked, I think we want to schedule that meeting sooner rather than later. Public safety, same. And then there are going to be tree removal discussions and regarding what the tree ordinance, if there's a tree ordinance in Burlington, requires. And then again, planning board, and I think that they're going to fold into some of these meetings.
So actually, I'm just realizing what's not on here is our working group meetings. So we want to, especially for our site, and we're hoping to be able to have that conversation. It's probably now going to happen it's probably going to happen after school vacation week in February, just given the timing. We just want to meet with the traffic engineering, transportation, and public safety as we refine the roundabout and also the bus drop-off before we present anything further to the site working group. That's important, just to make sure we have their buy-in. And the Park and Rec Department discussion could actually, our intent is actually to fold them into the site discussion as part of the group, so that we're not having a conversation with them and then come back and you're like, well, what do you mean they said this? So we think it's probably a more collaborative process if we loop Park and Rec into the site working group meeting. Yeah.
Maybe along the same lines of the working groups, we have met previously on a few occasions with the communications group, talk about website, public outreach, things of that nature. When we reviewed the overall schedule, I think we had earmarked a couple of dates for community forums in the schematic design phase. So I think certainly once we get pricing back, after documents are shared and priced towards the end of SD and before we submit, makes a lot of sense, but maybe we can chat quickly about thoughts, opinions on when the first one would happen. Sometime, I think we originally looked at the calendar, just looking at durations of schematic design, and thought maybe March made some sense. That the design might progress a little bit before that point, just to share where the direction of the site, where the direction of the building design was headed, since we last saw them back in, was that November or December? Yeah, so, quite a bit will have happened by then. So any thoughts, opinions, or considerations on when that we might schedule that, or to take it up separately with the communications group would be okay.
Not too close to town meeting and not too close to the elections.
And not too far down the design, so we get input in case there is any. Yeah.
March sounds good.
Very good. Yeah, so just to recap, overall timeline, we anticipate wrapping up schematic design towards June. There's a couple of dates to hit meetings and approvals to submit to the MSBA, and then as Paul and Eric mentioned briefly, there's some discussions to have about the timing of town meeting and votes, and making sure that process and timeline is well thought out and developed so that we can obviously inform the public at the community forums and in these meetings as well.
Thank you for asking.
Great segue.
Yep.
So the next few building committee meetings are now posted on the screen. Beyond April, I think we need to finalize those and circulate those. But the next few, February 26th at 6 p.m., which is a Monday, off the usual cycle. In March, we're back on a Tuesday evening on March 19th. And in April, back on a Monday night on April 8th, all at 6 p.m.
Madam Chair, the February 26th would be, would it make sense to have Amy come to that one?
I won't be here for that one, so I was just talking to Catherine. Yeah, I'm happy to coordinate with Amy, or maybe we talk about that date so that I can come.
Whatever,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
I'm saying I can call Amy too.
Yeah.
I just didn't know, if we're gonna have the public meeting in March. Wondering if we set the date ahead of that.
Yeah, I'll work with Steve and maybe
to
Chuck
Amy on what kind of lead time we want for commitment on the debt exclusion date. Oh, can you put your mic on?
Right, so this meeting with getting Amy's input on financing, right? That's the goal,
It would be the date for the debt exclusion vote.
right? But the debt exclusion is a little bit, well, what was discussed last time is that this committee cannot take a strong position on that. So this is informative.
Correct. Yes.
Amy telling us what the sort of the process has to be to meet state guidelines and other things.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can have input on what date ultimately I believe it goes to the select board. I think the select board has to vote to put it on the ballot. That's my understanding. Paul is on the line.
Yeah, that's correct. But I think there's a couple of potential dates that, Amy can throw out there and the committee can sort of get some guidance in terms of what they think is the most opportune date to try to have the debt exclusion election on. So I think that would be valuable to have her in and talk about the different options.
I guess the motion, your issue is just doing.
If I'm not, it's not the end of the world. But I think we need, there's this, do we want to be talking about the date at the March community meeting? There might be another community meeting in May too, right? So maybe if we don't have enough time by March, and maybe we do, but we should, once we know the day, I hear your point of communicating that date out. And I think, Roger, to your point, we can communicate that that is the day there will be a debt exclusion and that's where it ends.
That's all I was asking, is just to communicate the date.
But Paul, the process will be this school building committee will basically ask the select board to call for a debt exclusion. And to put it on a ballot, I believe we have to ask the select board.
Yes, that's correct.
So I think it's at least twofold. There's the town process. We just want to get a little closer ironed out, so to speak. So just to understand what that process is. And of course, we have a lot of folks watching these meetings. We want to be able to communicate what that process is and what the timeline is. So even if it isn't completely figured out in terms of exact dates, at least we're a little bit more informed on what the process is and what timeline that is on. So I think, Derek, to your point, once we get to the next community forum, we have some information to share on what that timeline would be.
Correct. I'm not 100% positive it's been completely communicated that we need a debt exclusion to make this project happen either. So, yeah. I think maybe that's what we go into the March meeting with, even if we don't have a date. I think there had been some question of could we do it without, but I believe that we are definitely needing a debt exclusion, and I think we need to communicate that and what it looks like to everyone's point. So. Looking at this picture also, looking at the flow chart, there we go. There's a funding window. If we slip a deadline, does that funding window move, or are we perfectly on track, et cetera?
Yeah, the funding window is an MSBA requirement. It's in their bylaws or in their regulations that following the project scope and budget approval, which is that last green star.
Yep.
It kicks off a 120-day window of
Okay.
when it, at that MSBA board meeting, it essentially approves the MSBA to enter into a project scope and budget agreement.
Okay.
But that 120-day window is kicking it back to the town to make sure the funding is approved. It can happen before that. Some towns, districts,
Okay.
just the way their meetings and their process works, it's allowed to happen before that. It cannot happen beyond that 100.
Okay, actually, that was going to be my question. If that slips, one of the dates is right at the beginning of September, so, okay. Okay.
will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm guessing they're all eyes on the internet.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.